We all have our morning rituals, don't we? For some of us, it's that first cup of coffee that really gets the day started, maybe a quick scan of the news, or perhaps a moment of quiet reflection before the world wakes up. These little routines, they ground us. But what if I told you that a seemingly private part of some men's morning routine, something rarely discussed, could be subtly working against your health, especially as we cross the 50, 60, and even 70-year mark? Now, I know what you might be thinking. Here we go, another lecture. But stick with me here. This isn't about judgment. It's about understanding our bodies better as we mature. We're talking about intimacy, and specifically, self-pleasure. It's a natural part of life, yet sometimes the way we approach it, especially in the morning, can have consequences we just don't see coming. I've been looking into what the experts say, particularly the insights from a board-certified urologist, Dr. James, who has pinpointed some common missteps. These aren't earth-shattering revelations in some ways, but they are the kind of quiet underminers that can affect our overall well-being. Why are we even whispering about this? You see, as we get older, things change. That's no surprise, right? Our bodies have clocked a lot of miles, and just like a classic car, they need a bit more thoughtful maintenance. Sexual health isn't some isolated compartment of our lives, it's deeply connected to everything else: our heart, our brain, our mood. A lack of intimacy or unhealthy practices around it can ripple outwards. Dr. James specifically talks about how certain morning habits can lead to consequences pretty similar to what happens if we're not experiencing intimacy at all. It's easy to dismiss this stuff, I get it, but our bodies, especially after 50 and certainly into our 60s and beyond, are just less resilient than they used to be. The bounce back isn't as quick. So, let's look at some of these morning mistakes that might be more dangerous than they appear. Mistake number 1, rushing it on an empty stomach and a dehydrated body. Picture this: the alarm goes off, maybe you hit snooze once or twice, and then, perhaps before your feet even properly hit the floor, or certainly before you've had a sip of water or a bite to eat, you decide a little me time is in order. A quick release to start the day. Sounds harmless, right? Well, not so fast. According to Dr. James, for our aging hearts, our blood vessels that might not be as flexible as they once were, and our nerves that have seen a few decades, this can be a silent ambush. Think about it. Overnight, our bodies have been working, repairing, but also slowly becoming dehydrated. Our blood sugar is naturally at its lowest. Circulation tends to slow down when we're at rest. Our blood pressure regulation also becomes a bit more, delicate. So what happens when you introduce sudden sexual arousal into this equation? Your cardiovascular system gets an unexpected jolt. Your heart rate can spike, your blood vessels might contract pretty rapidly, and blood gets pulled down to the pelvic area. This is happening at the very time your brain and heart are also waking up and needing good, steady blood flow after a night's rest. It's like flooring the accelerator in a cold engine. The real-world fallout of this silent ambush. This isn't just theoretical stuff. The consequences can range from feeling a bit off to something much more serious. You might experience dizziness or lightheadedness, a feeling of weakness, heart palpitations, that unpleasant fluttering in your chest, and sometimes it can be worse. We're talking about fainting spells or sudden sharp drops in blood pressure. In the most severe cases, this morning habit, done in a vulnerable state, could even contribute to cardiac events like heart attacks or what are known as transient ischemic attacks, TIAs. Basically, warning strokes. Dr. James even shared a sobering story about a patient who collapsed in his bathroom just minutes after climaxing in such a state and experienced a TIA. He directly linked it to this mistake. Now, let's connect the dots. Cardiovascular health is paramount as we age, and guess what? Erections are incredibly sensitive indicators of blood flow and overall vascular health. Think of sexual activity, even solo, as a gentle form of cardio. But just like you wouldn't, or shouldn't, sprint a 100-yard dash the second you roll out of bed without any preparation, the same principle applies here. Ignoring your body's need to gear up before placing demands on it can have pretty serious downsides. A little water, maybe a small piece of fruit. just letting your body fully wake up, it can make a world of difference. Mistake number 2. Are you accidentally reprogramming your brain every morning? The pornography pitfall. All right, let's be frank. In this digital age, accessing explicit content is easier than ever. And for some men, a quiet scroll through this kind of material first thing in the morning is a way to, shall we say, jumpstart arousal. It might seem like a private, harmless habit, but what if it's subtly yet persistently reprogramming your brain? Here's the thing. As we get older, especially past 60, though these changes start earlier, our dopamine system, that's the brain's reward and motivation circuitry, becomes more sensitive and, frankly, less forgiving. When you repeatedly expose your brain to high-intensity erotic content, especially in that just-woken-up state, you're essentially overloading a system that didn't evolve to handle that kind of constant, intense stimulation. The result? It can lead to desensitization. Your brain starts to adapt, and then it begins to demand more intensity, more novelty, just to achieve the same level of satisfaction. It's like building up a tolerance. What does this brain reprogramming look like in your actual life? This isn't just about what's happening inside your head. It has real, tangible effects on your relationships and your experience of intimacy. Real intimacy can feel flat. The genuine, subtle cues of affection from a partner might start to feel underwhelming. Touch can become dull. A partner's affection might not register as it used to. It's a heartbreaking thought, but the natural, loving advances of a spouse could fail to arouse because the brain is chasing something else. Difficulty with partner-based arousal. Some men find they can no longer get aroused with their wives because their brain has been trained to chase novelty, speed, and constant stimulation that real life and real partners rarely provide. Damaged connections and confidence. Dr. James uses strong words here, saying this habit can rewire their arousal, damage their ability to bond, and quietly stole their confidence. Erosion of natural reflexes. Over time, this pattern can destroy natural sexual reflexes, lead to what's called arousal fatigue, and make the brain rigid, no longer responding to natural cues or loving physical touch. You know, it's a bit like eating super sugary, intensely flavored processed foods all the time. After a while, the natural sweetness of a fresh apple just doesn't taste like much. Is that quick morning digital fix worth the potential long-term cost to your connection with your partner, and honestly, with your own natural responses? The wider impact here touches on brain health and cognitive function. When we distort how our brain responds to pleasure and intimacy, it can have knock-on effects, potentially even contributing to a sort of cognitive dullness. And, of course, it directly hinders emotional connection and relationship health. It can foster a sense of isolation, making it harder to experience real intimacy and satisfaction with the person you share your life with. Something to really mull over, isn't it? Mistake number 3, that awkward angle. How strangling the flow can sabotage your sexual health. This next one might seem almost trivial, but stick with me. It's about posture. Yeah, posture. Who'd have thought? Specifically, the posture many men might adopt if they're, say, sitting on the edge of the bed, maybe leaning forward, not really giving it a second thought. Dr. James points out that this seemingly small habit, repeated day after day, can quietly wear down a man's sexual health. Why your seating choice matters more than you realize. When you hunch forward, maybe squeeze your thighs together, or create tension in your pelvic floor, often without even realizing it, you can put chronic pressure on some really important structures down there. We're talking about the pudendal nerve, a major player in sensation and function, and the internal iliac arteries, which are crucial for blood supply to the pelvis. Essentially, you can be cutting off or restricting vital circulation to that whole area. Now, a younger fella might get away with this for a while. Their system is more robust. But as we've discussed, after 50 or 60, the body is just less forgiving. That little bit of daily unnoticed pressure adds up. The consequences when good blood flow goes bad. This isn't just about a moment of discomfort. Over time, this postural bad habit can lead to tingling or a pins and needles sensation in the genital area, reduced sensitivity, things just don't feel as intense, delayed climax, or difficulty achieving it at all. Numbness, which is definitely not what you want, and in the long run, it can contribute to actual erectile dysfunction. You're literally, as Dr. James puts it, strangling the flow that makes pleasure possible. These vital sexual organs are being starved of the oxygen and blood they desperately need to stay healthy and responsive. Beyond the direct sexual impact, this kind of posture and pelvic tension can also stir up trouble with prostate health and lead to pelvic floor muscle strain. This might show up as urinary difficulties, like trouble starting or a weak stream, discomfort in the groin, or even issues with incontinence. Who knew just sitting a bit weirdly could cause such a cascade of trouble, right? This ties directly into that old adage, use it or lose it, but with a twist. It's not just about whether you use it, but how you treat the machinery. When you consistently impede blood flow or stress the nerves, those blood vessels can narrow over time, nerve endings can become less responsive, and tissues can lose their healthy elasticity. It really underscores the importance of mindful self-care, even in these private moments. And just respecting the body's new set of operating instructions as we age. Maybe lie back, get comfortable, ensure you're relaxed. It's not just about the destination, but making sure the journey there isn't causing unintended harm. Mistake number 4, the heaviest weight, morning guilt, and the cortisol kickback. This last one, folks, is often the most invisible mistake, but Dr. James suggests it can leave deeper scars than any physical issue ever could. We're talking about guilt and shame. Many older men, perhaps due to upbringing, past religious beliefs, or even just the quiet loneliness of growing older, carry a silent burden of shame around self-pleasure. Your emotions can mess with your chemistry. That emotional spiral, that wave of guilt or shame, especially first thing in the morning when your system is just coming online, it literally changes your chemistry. What happens? It triggers a surge in cortisol, which you probably know is the body's main stress hormone. Think about that. You're trying to find a moment of release or pleasure, but if it's accompanied by a hefty dose of guilt, you're simultaneously flooding your system with stress chemicals. It's a cruel irony. The domino effect of that morning cortisol spike. When cortisol spikes like that, especially chronically, it's bad news all around. According to the research, it ruins your mood, no surprise there. It can suppress testosterone, and as we know, healthy testosterone levels are crucial for energy, mood, libido, and so much more. It can raise your blood pressure, adding to the cardiovascular strain we talked about earlier. It weakens your immune system, making you more susceptible to whatever bugs are going around. It interferes with memory and can cause brain fog, that feeling of not being quite sharp or clear-headed. It can lead to fatigue. And yes, it can even contribute to erectile dysfunction. The very stress you're creating through guilt can undermine sexual function. The body essentially responds to these negative emotions with tension and a kind of internal toxicity, which then hinders healthy hormonal balance and the body's natural healing processes. Many of us grew up with certain messages about sex and self-pleasure, some of them not so positive, and it's tough to shake off decades of conditioning. But as Dr. James and other experts emphasize, this shame, this guilt, it must be left behind. It's often an inherited burden, not something that truly serves our physical or emotional well-being now. This really highlights the profound link between our mental and emotional health and our physical state. Chronic stress and anxiety, which can already be a consequence of lacking intimacy or feeling disconnected, are just made worse by this kind of self-judgment. It can chip away at your sense of self-worth, leaving you feeling emotionally numb. It's a cycle that feeds itself, and breaking it starts with acknowledging that pleasure, in a healthy context, is not something to be ashamed of. It's a human experience. So if morning isn't ideal, when is a good time? All right, so if these morning habits come with potential pitfalls, especially for us guys over 50, 60, and beyond, is there a better time for self-pleasure? According to Dr. James, yes, there is. He generally recommends the late afternoon to early evening window, Think somewhere between 4 p.m. and 7 p.m. Why this later window works with your body. Let me explain the thinking here. By late afternoon or early evening, your body is fully online. You're typically well awake, you've had a chance to hydrate properly throughout the day, and you've got some nourishment in your system. No more running on empty. Your heart is in a good rhythm. Your cardiovascular system has settled into the day. It's not dealing with those abrupt morning shifts. Circulation is stronger. Blood is flowing more robustly and consistently than it might be first thing in the morning. Cortisol is naturally tapering off. Those morning stress hormone peaks have usually subsided by this time. Testosterone might be on a natural rise. For many men, there's a secondary, smaller peak in testosterone in the late afternoon, early evening. The upsides of better timing. Choosing this later window for self-pleasure can actually bring some positive benefits. Promotes relaxation. It can be a great way to de-stress after a busy day. Reduces stress and anxiety, actively helping to lower those cortisol levels we were just talking about. Can aid sleep. For many men, the release can lead to better, more restful sleep. Sets the stage for a healthier experience. It creates an environment for healthy arousal, satisfying release, and mental calm afterward. It's really about working with your body's natural daily rhythms rather than pushing against them. It makes sense when you think about it, aligning these personal moments with a time when your body is better prepared to handle and benefit from the experience. So, there you have it. We've walked through 4 specific morning masturbation mistakes that, according to Dr. James, can silently undermine the health and well-being of men, especially as we navigate our 50s, 60s, and beyond. It's clear that these seemingly minor habits, rushing it on an empty system, over-relying on daily morning porn, adopting poor posture, and struggling with guilt, can accumulate some pretty significant negative consequences. Odd, these aren't just isolated incidents. They can affect our cardiovascular system, our brain health and cognitive function, our hormonal balance, our physical sensitivity, and our emotional well-being. And these specific mistakes can feed into broader issues that concern all of us as we age. Things like accelerated aging, increased chronic stress, potential cognitive decline, and a feeling of emotional disconnection from ourselves and our partners. The goal here isn't to add another don't to your list. Honestly, it's the opposite. It's about providing information, fostering understanding, and empowering you to make mindful, informed choices that support your long-term health and vitality. Sexual health is a vital part of overall health at every age. It's not about stopping or denying ourselves, but about adapting our practices to suit where we are in life. It's about respecting the incredible machine that is our body, giving it what it needs to function well, and ensuring that our private moments contribute to our well-being rather than detract from it. These are conversations worth having, even if they feel a bit awkward at first. Because at the end of the day, this is all about living a healthier, more fulfilling, and yes, longer life. It's about taking care of ourselves, gentlemen, in every way that counts.